Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us here at Infinite Imaginarium Community Hangout.
Each of us is faced with a mystery. We are born into this. We die into this. We grow up, work, play, fall in love, get our heart broken, and face death. What is the nature of the darkness? And what is our position in it? What does the universe mean? What is its purpose? Who are we? And what is the meaning of our lives?
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. It's not on.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, Dreameater?
Hey.
I don't know.
I was having problems with my
Okay, I'm
phone.
just expecting one more person to come in, so I'm just gonna mute my mic for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
So I did invite like 3 more people just before we get started. I think we could just pretty much start. But I was just about to tell Satori, and I'm just gonna start saying my idea. Satori, do you mind? Should I just start?
Yeah, go for
And
it.
let people that everyone has the link. If they want to come and join, I'm not gonna help anyone else at all.
So, like, are you recording this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. No, just because,
Okay.
like, I wasn't fully ready, but yeah, just go.
Okay, so I was telling Satori that when I sent you one of the links I had sent you, I had asked you, are you excited? I said, before I show you this, I want to ask you what's your level of excitement or wanting to collaborate or participation, because I said we could really make this a little webisode. After I was inspired by the photo series that we did collaborate on, so I was really, really inspired by how we summoned this scorpion goddess, right?
Yeah, I know. If it full came out, it was pretty funny how that happened. Yeah.
And there was a clip that you didn't exactly see that I realized why I had sent it from my other device, which was just Wi-Fi, so it was probably too large of a file, which is I'm actually happy you didn't, because I'd like to reduce it a little further. And I thought it would be
shorter
really...
or?
Oh no, what it is I was thinking of having a character, the ScorpioNoir character, which I thought was really, really neat, to have it be another character that the Dreameater interacts with, and really just do this. I mean, she's kind of like an epic character to really create and elaborate on, whether it's animated or photographed.
What does noir mean?
Noir is a style of film back in... You remember when they did all the gangster films in black and white, high contrast with... and then it was copied in comic books, for example? It was so easy to represent in comic books in black and white because of the style of illustration.
So that's what that means.
Yes, so Frank Miller made that noir contemporary with Sin City. He did Sin City.
I like Sin City. That was good.
So he made noir very contemporary, because if you look at his graphic novels and illustrations, he does pretty much only black, white, and occasionally red and yellow, and he uses them very specifically for the characters.
Yeah, like blood and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and he's really great at it, and he's someone that brought that style into a whole new generation, really a whole new era. But I was thinking ScorpioNoir, the reason why I like that name was because noir implies dark or black, and she summoned when we were chatting about the Imaginarium Third Eye collaboration. The collaboration, and after reading what Scorpion represented in the underworld, I thought, wow, this is like we manifested this beautiful creature in this realm.
Yeah, it's weird how things like things like that happen to me all the time, and like I guess call them synchronicities. You know what I mean?
Yes, very much, because I think it fits the Luminous Dark. What we were talking about manifesting with a dark series, that some of the darker things of the Imaginarium, and I think that Satori would be interested too to see that character develop and interact with Dreameater. Am I right?
Yeah, but in what way? Like, how are you gonna do that? I mean, like, how are you gonna develop the story?
That's open to interpretation. Are you asking me specifically, or Satori, or?
I'm asking you specifically.
Let me tell you some ideas that I have that we could play around with. So versions of collaborating that we like to do are either throwing things back and forth, whether one person starts the writing and we throw it back and forth, or we do Photoshop kind of as a version of what you and I did. There's a version of it that can be done where we collaborate on it until we both, or everyone that's working on it, decides, okay, we like the direction it's going in, and we can contribute different variations to plot lines, or if we have something better, we propose it and say, we like this idea. Maybe this character could do this instead right here. And then it could be, even if it, instead of being an actual, I see this character, ScorpioNoir, as two characters. One, an actualized character in the photographs that I work with, where she becomes materialized in that way. Yeah. Two, I see her as a figment of the imagination, a comic book character, almost where she's just fictitious and a dark side of someone's imagination.
When like it gets mirrored.
So she, or when they're seduced or seductive, because remember the Scorpio has this thing in DMT-like quality, remember that. So she could also interact with the Dreameater whenever he's interacting, even in the time twins. If it's not its own separate series, it could come interact. She could interact in the time twins of the character too. But equally, the whole point is to write these characters into their own stories and interact with each other. And the Dreameater, that's his Scorpion goddess. I mean, let's be real. She manifested in a physical way in front of me because you and I were talking very spiritually and deep about reincarnation in the afterlife and the third eye and, you know, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we were talking about DMT, psychedelics, all this kind of stuff. So,
you know,
it's interesting that she just kind of played on my subconscious. Yeah.
An idea that I've always liked to play with, and I think someone's done, I mean, they've done it before, I think. So anyways, the Time Twins is a comic book, right? So they live in the dream state. And what if they dream in, like, the real, like,
Ooh, I love multi-dimensional dreams.
Yeah.
Yes, they're dreaming of...
So when they go to sleep, right?
Wait, are they dreaming of the Mind Invaders and of the Dreameater?
Yeah, and it's like an alternate version of what we're doing, you know? Like
can I explain?
We dream of them, but when they fall asleep, they dream of us, and so
well, you have to.
That's what I said.
You have to give them a little bit of, because Mind Invaders was something Satori thought of, and I think that should be the first place the time twins go. And I think that you guys should really talk about the Dreameater and Satori, that whole the Mind Invader episode where the ScorpioNoir character could make an appearance, because I think it could be something that we all do collaboratively, but I really think that's a really fun concept to work with. That's a lot of characters that we're introducing, and you know, the Time Twins is already pretty written as far as like there's a lot of background stuff and visual stuff that's been kind of storyboarded for it. There can be, you know, it could be really fun. But yeah, I mean, Satori, I want to hear more of what Satori was saying too about that.
I was just going to say, when it comes to like, well, at least for me, when it comes to like thinking about storylines or stuff like that, because of like my dream states, I don't have to think about stories, and like I don't have to sit there and think, I'll write it this way or whatever. Like I'll just have the dream just go bang and just like write that. You know what I'm saying? So like it's a bit hard for me to sit there.
I think it should be organic, and it could be whatever you dreamt last night. It could be your favorite memory. It could be things. You know, we talked about Rick and Morty being.
Well, I would have to fit in, but you know what I mean, like
consciousness dreams. You know.
Yeah, the other night I had a dream like about my family. Like you know, just when you have dreams aren't always dark, but yeah. What I'm saying is, yeah, you just wait for the right one and then put that.
They're not always dark, and you know, what we found is that when we get together, hi JT, when we get together and we start focusing on a mutual collaborative, we notice that more and more people do tend to gravitate towards these places and dimensions we go, these inspirational imagination stations of like, where do they go in their sleep? I have no idea.
Well, some of them do it in waking dreams sleep. After that? Or?
Yeah, of course. Victoria, wouldn't you say you have dreams and get inspired when you have past, like get inspired?
Yeah, I mean, most of what fills me for Imaginarium came to me in dreams. I'm always talking about how, especially when I do my video edits, the main thing that guides me is in a dream I went to like this hip-hop festival. And then everybody's like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here, and this and that. And I was like, you know what, you guys, like, stop that. And then, like, literally in the dream, I get up on top of a box, so, like, I'm talking on my soapbox. And I was like, you know what, you guys, hip hop today is not even real hip hop. He's like, you guys are like telling me about I'm not fashionable, like I don't dress ghetto or whatever. Like, fuck that. Real hip hop is about this and that. And I was like, you know what? Why can't you say something deep and have a dope ass beat? And then like that's how I ended it. And then like so later,
I love that.
so later like everything I do is like, okay, I need to like stay true to what I said on my soapbox. You know, like I can't let Dream me down. If I do, he's gonna like haunt me in my dreams if I don't like live up to what he was saying on his soapbox.
Can I ask who's the anonymous person in the room?
No, you can't.
I want to know. Is it someone I just invited? They can at least say yes or no if it's one of the people I just invited.
You don't want to talk, you could just say in the chat.
Oh yeah, you don't have to say anything. You could always type it in the chat. Anonymous.
You know what I was just thinking right now with what we were saying, because like the Time Twins is like its own comic book world, and as we develop that more, you know, simultaneously we could have fun with this other concept. And I like what you do, that trailers, and I think what's interesting is if we have essentially like trailer tennis, like you do one and you kind of help with like the template, and we keep on building.
It's funny that you said that Derek said the same thing.
Yeah, and we build up like these templates or like different things that we could use. And so like for everybody that has their smartphone, you know, those programs are kind of easy because it's like an easy template to do. It's just to like kick up the ideas, and then we just kind of pass it around like, oh, introduce this character and that character. And as we build that, then that's like a different kind of world itself.
Did hear was that you were talking about playing Photoshop tennis with the trailers, and what we can do is use them as kind of templates to propose ideas and stuff, which is what I was thinking too. And we go forward with
I don't even know what that means, guys. This is what's funny about this.
Basically, this is what he's saying. The clip that you didn't get that I sent you, that I said I wanted to use later for the Imaginarium, was one that looked like a trailer of a proposal for like a movie or theme. And I said I wanted to wait, and you said, oh, I didn't get that one anyway. And I said that's probably because the file was too big in the device I sent it.
What were the pictures of?
It was the same thing. It was just like
it was the same thing. Oh, okay.
It was like the same thing with a different template that I used, but I think because the file was too large, it didn't send on the Wi-Fi alone.
Oh, okay.
So then what I was saying was to Satori that when I said to you originally, when I said, are you ready for this? I said, how far do you want to get involved with the level of collaboration on this character? And do you want to write her story kind of thing? But you got the text when I think I sent it to you, but I don't think you got, or did you not get that text? Maybe.
No, like I was out at the time, I think, so like when you were messaging or whatever, I was out.
It's also because two different devices, which
yeah.
So that's basically
like I was saying,
and so what he was saying, anyone with a smartphone can use the specific apps that I used and that we're talking about, and he's saying anyone that has access to a smartphone can use these apps, and we can interact with the same file or template, and we can collaborate virtually, which is a theme that we've been talking about, collaborating virtually. So that's basically what he was saying.
Yeah, but you're talking about editing like photos.
Well, the whole point is putting them together they can be used to storyboard concept design too. They inspired me to do it more of a web series of this particular character. You see what I mean? It's just a matter of your interest. Like, say there's a concept we come up with where we're like, oh, ScorpioNoir sounds like a really cool character to have. We should maybe do a little series spin-off of her where we have so many photos we like to work on of her, let's say, together, you and I, where we decide why not keep working on her as a character, why not elaborate she's a great character. But it's really a matter of what you decide on invested interest. There's tiers of collaboration. You can collaborate on a level of very almost non-collaboratively, where you're just kind of like co-collaborating with a lot of people, or you could be more intimate. Like, remember you said to me just recently, one of the last things you sent to me, you said, oh, I really like what you did with our collaboration, but I understand what you mean now by like more intimate collaboration, right?
Yeah, I understand what you meant by that. But like when it comes to the sort of editing stuff, like that's not really my thing. But like I said, I've got the experiences, like with the dream states and all that. Like because I dream like multiple dreams a night. So every day I wake up, I can just be like.
Great. I mean, that's all content for someone to work with, and I love editing. That's like the fun part.
But then you can go back to, but you guys want to like make a story up, don't you?
I think the fun part is being really organic about it, and neither choosing a scripted thing nor making it just completely like. I mean, I think we're all really good at channeling stream of consciousness, right? Like Satori does it with a beat, verbally. Like I've heard him speak, and you can get lost into listening to it, you know. And with your writing, it's similar, and with the visuals that you want to do, I think that there's a cohesiveness there, like a common thread that when you see it together is like a beautiful tapestry woven with all these different kinds of colors, and it's similar,
so
though.
You just gotta put it together, basically.
Yeah, it's really a matter of how much we put it together, how much we want to elaborate on each character or each concept, or where we want to take them, or what we're inspired by. It's what we present to each other as a collaboration, and then it should be put forth between each person that's involved, and it should be upfront about like who's doing what, and what we
and how many people
show each other, show it. Well, it's not really decided because we're still talking about what it is as a concept. The real thing is to keep in mind is it was an inspiration that stemmed from the first collaboration that we did for the Imaginarium.
Oh yeah, and that's why I said to you guys, like I didn't want to come like sort of in between it or anything like that.
Oh no, it's not in between. You're the person that the Scorpion goddess was summoned when we had our collaborative talk, and she was an inspiration that I brought out in the photos that I did collaboratively with you, and then from that. It really inspired the thought process of, well, let's maybe develop her into a noir character where we do her in a noir style of either comic strip or animated thing, or even with photos. Well, the other way would be just writing her into, as a character, like I said, like psychologically representing the depths of the underworld, or the sting and the DMT like experiences that the Dreameater has whenever he's written to whatever story he enters, and that's also just a concept to keep in mind. It's not developed yet. It's a real collaboration takes time and interacting on an intimate level where you pick each other's brains and you get. You
know what's weird about it?
You get those juices.
Like most of my best DMT experiences, when I would have them, I'd have the DMT and then I'd like lay next to Tash. So Tash would be there, and like I'd sort of like hold her and then go into the state and I'd feel comfortable, like having her there, and then like coming back, you know what I mean? And then like I'd come out of the DMT experience going, saying to Tash like, you were there, and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you had to have been there because how could you have not been there, sort of thing, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like, because if you haven't done DMT, but yeah, it's kind of like what you were saying, how Tash like helped me to go to the underworld. Not in the sense that she actually helped me, but she was there for like, you know, like I said before, that's why I come back. Like I have these dream states where I'm going to the void and I'm always like trying to find my way back to her, sort of thing. Like she's a gateway or some sort of thing. Does that make sense?
I think that's why I like her being represented by like a female, and I like that she is represented as a feminine kind of figure. And I think the noir makes it the dark is pointing to the dark side of the ink a lot, almost like imagery, where she's always represented in an abstract, not direct way, where she's referenced very subtly and very, very like tastefully. I think would be really cool to elaborate on as a character.
Yeah, no, it sounds good, but you just got to come up with like an actual story. What's going to happen? You know what I mean?
I think they write themselves really.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? You're right. It's kind of like life. It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
How many people are in chat? Is it just
JT? You want to say hi? I think my friend JT just entered again.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, you.
Hey.
I'm sorry I'm joining the call so late. Okay.
That's okay. It happens. There's also a couple other people, Mad Dog, want to say hi, and Anonymous, which I don't know who Anonymous is yet.
Isn't it weird having an anonymous person in the room?
I know who
Well,
the
I
dumbest
mean-
person is. But I can't
Oh, you
say
know
it.
who it is.
I don't mind. I don't mind. You're so funny. I don't mind that there's an.
Oh, then I think I might know who it is.
So what are we talking? What's the subject?
So there is no.
Well, what do you want the
topic,
subject to be?
there's no-
Yeah. You
It's
tell us,
whatever
JT, what is the
Yeah,
subject?
tell us.
That is a
Bring
good
up-
question.
I can just speak for days if you want. Jesus.
No, let him. That's a good. No. Since he just asked, that's a great point. There's no topic. What's up? How are you?
No, well, now there is a topic because JT brought it up. So what are we talking about today, JT?
Let's talk about the psychology of large groups.
Large groups versus like becoming a hive mind, or just not be like large groups as hive minds. I see them as one and the same. That's the problem.
I think everyone's already a hive mind. They just don't realize it yet.
They're exactly the same thing. It doesn't matter.
That's why-
if you're an
that's why I
individual or a
asked-
large group of people.
That's exactly why I asked you that, and Dreameater answered the same thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was literally like, wait, I don't know how
That's
to
what I think's
answer
happening with the world. I think it's coming to like an event horizon where everything's sort of kind of like compressing into where everyone's gonna like realize something. That's what it's weird when you think about the future. You think what's gonna happen, and because like the synchronicities I see just become stronger and stronger, and it gets to a point where you think like if it gets any stronger, it's gonna kind of collapse reality. I don't know if that sounds strange, but you know,
Well, it's something
just
that's
with
been
my-
there for a long time. It's just
Yeah,
something that people
but-
are starting to notice now because.
Yeah.
the way
I don't
that
know.
people-
I don't know if you know me very well, but like my dream states and my waking life, like they're almost the same thing. And like if I dream about something at nighttime, it'll most likely happen the next day.
Yeah.
And I'll have like, yeah, honest to God.
Hey JT, did you get the link I sent you of the? Did you just get the link I sent you of the collaboration I did? Because that's who I did the collaboration with. Too. We both similarly have these waking dream life states where we have kind of sleep. Well, he sleeps more than I do, but
I sleep like a baby, but
He's a
when I'm
dream
asleep, yeah, when I'm asleep, I'm always aware. So like I'll transition from being awake to kind of drifting off to sleep, but I'll get sleep paralysis and then go into a dream state. So it'll either be a lucid dream or I don't like the lucid dreams because like I'm fully aware, and people say they want to get lucid and be like in a lucid dream, but I'm telling you right now, it is the worst thing. Once you're fully aware in a lucid dream, there's no sense of time, and you're just stuck in this. You're stuck in this place that you know everyone is you, and it becomes like a hell. I've literally sat there in a lucid dream on a lounge, I remember, and I was waiting for the dream to end. I was waiting to wake up, and I remember I woke up from that, and I was just like, what the hell, you know what I mean? Then you get those loop ones, like where I had this one where it actually was triggered from sleep paralysis, but I kept getting up in the night to switch a light on that was like down the hallway, like near the bathroom, and I'd get up, right, we leave the light on at night, so there's like a night light, and I'd get up, or I think I'd wake up in real life, but I was really dreaming, and the light was off, and I'd get up, I'd walk down the hallway, and turn the light on, and when I turned the light on, there's this clown there, and it would laugh at me, and then it kept putting it, like, it'd take a sticker off like this sticker book, and then it'd put a sticker on my hand, and then I'd be like, oh, you fuck, like I'm dreaming, right? And then I'd wake back up in bed, unaware that just happened, and then the same thing happened again, the light's off, so I walked down the hallway, turned the light on, and the clown's there again, laughing, like, full cackling, and this thing was there, it felt like it was physically there, like I could see it. It almost had a smell to it, like a musty smell. It was the freakiest thing ever. Every time I'd do it, it'd put a new sticker on my arm, like on my wrist. And I swear it happened about 100 times. And at the end of it, I was so frustrated. I was just like, I want this to end. And when you come out of that, you just like, what is that? Like, is that a part of my psyche? Is that a part of me? I don't know.
Did you dream last night? JT, did you dream last night?
I dreamed last night. I almost never dream at all.
Oh, really? That's surprising to me, because when someone says they don't dream,
they just can't recall it. But you
yeah, that's what I think, because it's impossible for someone like not to dream.
It's not like that for me. I recall my dreams very vividly, and like you were saying, they're very predictive. I'll tell you the most intense dream that I've had in the last year, meeting this woman that I kind of dove into, for all intents and purposes, marriage with at this crazy time.
Physically? Like a reverse rebirth? Wait, what?
I was in a complicated situation. I was working on a camp, and I had another job while I was working there. I got involved in a lot of different people, and I look to the back of us, and there's all the adults, this huge tidal wave wall of water coming towards everybody, and everybody starts running with all these kids.
I like that it sounds like you're talking from underwater right now. Is that just me, or is that everyone?
Yeah.
I love it. It's so cool.
Yeah, the tidal wave comes and sucks everybody up, and right before it gets me, I wake up immediately. Everything that was happening in my work life up at that point, and everything that was going to end up unfolding over the course of that next month, it was like a premonition, and it fucking sucked. But coming back to the psychology of large groups of people, it's something that's been around forever. It's just something that, you know, is becoming more prevalent since, you know, there are more people. The way that we live is much more village-like when you really think about it. You know, we have all of these little, we take into consideration cities, right? What happens in a city? Everyone in a city has bills and shit. They pay more money to do what they're supposed to do, so they tend to be much more mission focused. They have a very good idea of what it is they need to get done every day when they wake up in the morning. They live on a fucking schedule because that is how it is when it's in a city. But you come to an outlying town. Let's take what the hell is the name of that town? There's a little town outside of Riverside in the middle of California called Beaumont. It's in the middle of nowhere. And there are lots of little towns like that everywhere, no matter where you go, outside of bigger cities like Olympia, Seattle, Washington, D.C., etc. And when you come into towns like this, they are villages. There are places where it's very easy for two people to get to know one another just by association, no matter how many degrees of separation that there are. And when you take that into consideration, and you talk about the fact that these people see each other all of the time, there are habits, things that people pick up on subconsciously that scream out in person. And when you're in a town like that, people that are particularly sensitive, I'd imagine a great deal of you in this group are, you begin to peer deeper and deeper and deeper in between the lines of what is being said and how people are communicating. And for me in particular, you know, I'm at this stage right now where I'm trying to figure out narcissism is the enemy here, because it is of a benefit not only to you, but to everyone around you for you to be able to extrovert all of those things that you're absorbing instead of keeping them inside and analyzing them too much and operating in the moment. And it's something, and this is what
Are you talking about
noticed.
making people uncomfortable? Like,
No. I'll tell you a story. I was playing at a pool with these kids the other day, okay? And I was watching my nephew, a good 2 years older than the next oldest kid here that stays in this apartment complex. And these half dozen or so kids, they hang out with each other all the time. And people follow this kid Elijah around like puppy dogs, you know, and he's a leader, but he's also extra sensitive. But he is far removed enough from all of those subconscious mannerisms and associations that people make moment to moment. At the end of the day, because we have the cognitive ability to, let's take love. We define love, but love is just a construct for something that we feel chemically, it's something that in some way, shape, or form other animals may feel, but they don't have the cognitive ability to label it as something. Love. Okay, human beings are animals as well. We have all of those same predispositions. You and a dog and a bird all absorb the same stimuli at all times. The only difference between the three of us is that we have the cognitive ability to push all of that, some of that stuff aside that we see as useless or not useful. Like when a car goes by and honks their horn. The dog will look, the dog may bark, but if you're in the middle of a conversation, you're not going to break your conversation with a person just to go look at that car that just rolled down the street and honked the horn, right? All of that stuff happens socially around us all the time, every day. And when you think about how it happens on a wider scale, you know, something like the last election is a perfect example of how easily people are distracted by those things. And what you were saying before, I think that some people are extra sensitive, and it's one of the reasons that I think children are one of the best groups to learn from and to study.
You are absolutely correct. That is why I worked so long with twins and studied. I was fascinated by especially the nonverbal communication. I was noticing that with twins, they had a really strong drive to nonverbally communicate more so than with other kids, obviously, that were not born with a sibling always there. Whether or not it was with speech or not, they had this ability to always be communicating. And I found that when they had to come together against a common enemy, it was unspoken. They would just band together, even if one of them didn't really have an issue with this enemy, supposed, whether it was imagined or real. they would do this thing where they would kind of band together, and those my little cousins especially are the twins that really inspired the Time Twins too, because their names start from A to Z. One of them is Anastasia, and the other one's Zenobia Star, and they have very much like A to Z names, and their total personalities are like opposite. I mean, imagine the one being like a complete Zen, fitting her name, and the other one being a complete, more like wanting to be in the spotlight, daytime sunshine, shining kind of personality, and yet they come together when they want to, and silently. It's really interesting to watch. That's kind of what inspired partially the Time Twins. Kids are really, really like sponges, and they are amazing to learn from, for sure. They are.
Well, that's just because they're, like, kids are, you know, closer to the source or whatever. But going on what you were saying, what you see patterns in waking life, what I'm finding interesting from my perspective is my dreams are actually, and I'm not lying when I say this, like when I dream at night, I'll go through my day and there'll be like several things, it can be like 10 things that'll happen that it'll trigger in my mind that I dreamt this last night, this is what happened. It's kind of like deja vu, but to a bigger extent. It's almost like I block out some things because I still want to be surprised. And that's why I said, like, I've got the feeling when we're dreaming, you've got the ability to either, well, see, how do you know if you're having a precog dream or you're programming reality? There's no way of knowing, you know what I mean? Because I have them all the time, but then I sort of thought to myself, maybe it's not precognitive, maybe it's both, me, like, programming.
It's a bit, I think it is a bit of both, that precognitive and awareness of the infinity and synchronistic things that are to happen, that haven't happened, and sometimes being aware of them seems like you're literally programming the things around you, or because being aware
it's
of
like
a time split.
Yeah, being like experienced with lucid dreams, I can say that you can manifest things in lucid dreams, and like you manifest everything from the world around you to the people. That's what I think is happening with waking life. We're just a dream of awareness, but like we got our separate egos, but it's a lucid dream of the awareness. And I think you can go back into that awareness, and then from there you can sort of maybe get info on what's happening or change things. You can read ahead, basically. You know, you can skip a little bit and see what happens the next day.
I wonder, in pertaining to that hive mind large groups question in general, it kind of brings up hive minds and them being kind of like running in the sand and trying to keep from that concept while still doing things collaboratively is something that I know comes up a lot with what we're doing.
All I know is when you start to look for patterns, you see more patterns, and the further you look into it, the more complex it comes, the more complex it becomes. But like you'll start to see more and more because it's there for you to see if you want to see it. Some people don't see it because they don't want to see it.
Yeah, for sure. So there's this thing that I used to say a lot with my group of friends. We were like, I would say from like 19 to 23, 24. I had this like group of friends. It was about like 5 of us, and we would like do almost everything together. We're like really close. I call them like my inner circle. When we started really, really like connecting with each other, we had this saying that we used to say, oh, that goes without saying. Oh, that goes without saying. Like, we would just know what the other person was kind of wanting to do, or like, you know, nonverbal communication with each other. We'll be at like a party or whatever. We would just know, like, let's go do this, let's go do that, or let's do this or whatever. And it kind of would go without saying. Another interesting experience is when I was working, and everybody probably has this when you like work in like a group, like really, really together. When the kitchen is running really, really smoothly, it's like a dance. There's no, like, of course you kind of prepare for the day and you have like a game plan, and you kind of like, while you're prepping, you say, hey, like a good cook would ask, like, hey, if I get into trouble, you kind of basically know how the night's going to go, but you never really know exactly what the orders are going to come in as, but you have a general idea. And you have a game plan, and you ask for help beforehand. You said, hey, if I'm going to be in the shits with my watermelon, like, if I give you, like, the nod, like, can you run into the back and, like, get me a watermelon or whatever it is. But when a team's working together really, really closely, it's a dance. Like, you anticipate what everybody's movements are, and you anticipate what's going to come. And it's hilarious because we used to play, like, this. I used to actually do this a lot, like, play this game where I would not try to overthink it. You know, every night no matter how much you prepare, and especially if you try to predict it from last night, the orders don't come in the same. There's always outliers on how the ordering comes in. And for whatever reason, I would always guess pretty much on the dot. And like everybody would trip out because like I would just go, instead of overthinking it, I would just go like, oh, I'll just do it. Like, I don't know why, but I'm just going to prepare this much or that much. Like, oh, I won't need that much. And I would just kind of go with quote unquote intuition. And it always would be like pretty close to the dot on my orders. And everybody was like, oh, you got lucky. And I would just kind of like smile. But it's like the same thing when you're dancing with each other. If you're doing it correctly, you're not thinking. You're just doing. And everybody's just doing. Like later, just like in a dream, like when we're talking about later, you put it into words, but in the moment, you're not putting it into words. You're just moving and you're anticipating stuff, but you're just flowing with the Tao. You're just dancing with each other. And it kind of goes without saying. And that's like, it's very similar to what we were saying about dreams. Like, when you connect to that source or whatever, where you're talking about like programming, it's like you're accessing the Tao, like the natural flow of how everything is supposed to progress. But the minute you try to like capture it, like grab it, like the minute it collapses on you, and the minute you lose access to it, and that's where like these struggles and glitches happen, and where people get really frustrated. And you're like, oh my god, why? And like, because you want to get back to that source, but you can't get back to that source with using your conscious, like the self. You gotta like lose the self to get access to the Tao, the natural flow of things, without saying, the silent knowing. And it's a really weird state to be in because of the mind, It's funny because I think it's our natural state, but for whatever reason, our different environments, how we grew up or whatever, it seems more difficult than it needs to be to get there.
I think it's because we've built up a separation between, not build it up, but maybe it's there for a reason. The ego thinks it's separate to the sort of self, and what you were saying, like I get that with my wife Tash. Basically, like I see exactly what you're saying, and then as soon as I mention it, like even Tash will say like, "Why did you say that?" Now you wrecked the moment, sort of thing. Because like it's so clear at the time. I think it was even last night. She was like dancing around with Seraphina, my daughter. I was kind of thinking in my head, you know how people say life's like three-dimensional? I was thinking like, how is this three-dimensional? This is more like five-dimensional at the moment. As soon as I thought it and said it to Tash, she's like, oh, why did you say it? Now you wrecked it. Yeah, it's like as soon as you become aware of that thing, that it's very elusive. And I think it's what consciousness is, or at least what consciousness is like. Because as soon as you can't observe it, like you'll be flowing with it, but as soon as you try and like pin it down or observe it, it just vanishes. It's exactly like when you go into those DMT states and you remember everything. You remember exactly why you are here. Everything is clear to you, but when you come back, you can't word it in like human language. Like the first thing when you come back from like a DMT trip, everyone's like, "Oh, what did you see? Like, tell us like in words," but you can't. The words can't like describe what it is, but it's the same thing with waking life. We're using these like words to like describe things, but it's not really what it is. And I think that's what's the words are kind of like what we downplay things with. Like we give things labels, but the labels of a thing is not what a thing is. Like we call a tree a tree, but it's not really a tree.
Exactly.
We call it a tree. So you think, oh, I've got that understood because I know that's a tree. But you just call that a tree. It doesn't make it a tree, you know what I mean? It's just a pattern. Basically, we think we've labeled everything in the world, so we understand it, but really we don't understand it.
There's this line that I use in some of my poetry, and it goes like this. It goes, some say that the truth shall set you free, but really it's the truth that entraps me. And what I mean by that is that these words and these labels and trying to frame everything, which is useful, but if you totally believe that the map is the truth and not the territory, or the menu is the truth and not the meal, is the minute you get entrapped, and then you have like lag in or this like glitch or whatever between being able to access that Tao, the natural flow of everything, and then you fighting with it. Like I call it banging my head against reality. There's a deeper part of myself that knows like, oh, you should be doing this, or I like the best explanation I like for deja vu It says when you have deja vus, it means that you're doing exactly what you're meant to be doing. It's the same thing when you bring in your ego and you're trying to label everything and you said, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that with it. Is the minute you lose that access to it. So you lose the access to the dance, to the songs of eternity. And and so
that's exactly right. Oh, sorry.
Even with Missy, so like Missy told me one time, like, oh, I think, because I mentioned I have this thing, it's called the Toltec Oracle, and she's like, oh, you want to do a reading for me? I was like, oh, beginning, I was like, oh, I don't really do that. Like, I use it for myself. But if she thinks she needs it, then I think she needs it. And so like things didn't match up. So I like, you know what? I got something to do, but I'll do it for her. And then it's like the I Ching or anything else. It's whatever you think it is that's what it is. And so it doesn't matter if I'm there or not. What matters is her interpretation of it. And so like I wrote her an email giving her what it said. And later
she's like, amazing. I said it explained what just literally was happening while I wasn't talking to you.
You were like, oh, it was like you were seeing what was happening. I was like, oh no, I wasn't seeing what was happening. I'm just a pen. Like me, Daniel, doesn't matter. What matters is getting these. Remember that, what was it, the flower card where it talks about poetry, but poetry that is like more like music or songs?
Yes, they describe the flowers also seen as the heart.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's pointing...
And represented by the
it's
heart. It's
pointing to that stuff that goes without saying, you know? That we all kind of know, but we need to like trick ourselves into doing it or seeing it. And this goes back to this bigger picture of the power of myth, right? Why are these stories keep on getting like recycled throughout time? Because they show the hidden archetypes of consciousness, and it can be practically scoped out to like the individual of what's happening within your own mind, but what happens within the concert of like within your family group or your friend group, then with society at large, and it kind of keeps on fanning out with it. And this goes back to what JT was saying about narcissism is being attached to the ego, and it's kind of like these glitches in our society collective consciousness, right? It's kind of like blocking us from doing what I think we're like meant to do as society, is just like kind of working more organically in a natural flow. But we have these like central powers of these people like trying to funnel in coordination of activity, when if you have like a healthy environment, things naturally spread out. Yeah, there's what he was saying about like natural leaders, but these leaders are more kind of like guides. And it was funny because I heard this recently about the myth of the alpha wolf, and it said that it was just a parent pack. Anthropologist was viewing the wolves at a national park, which is not necessarily in the wild, you know? It's like a controlled environment, and he was even mistaken with his observation. What he thought was the wolf pack was really a family pack. What he thought was the alpha male of the wolf pack was really the mother and father of the kids. And when he viewed the pack in the wild, like later in like Alaska or whatever, he found out that it wasn't like that. It wasn't set in stone that there was just one dominant male that ruled everything and everybody just followed in line. But like at certain times and in certain situations, certain wolves in the pack would take lead. But it wasn't like set in stone, like, oh, this is the alpha wolf or whatever. It was more fluid. It wasn't as concrete as he first observed or thought. And that he tried to explain it, but someone already latched onto the idea because it played into their own kind of narcissistic natural biases. And that myth has even still grabbed hold our like collective conscious.
What about, I like that you use the word concert too, because I always think of it like Joseph Campbell. There's a book that he has, The Art of Living. It's kind of a Joseph Campbell guide. I always think of us as the artists. We are kind of writing these stories of life. But interesting part of, I was gonna say, isn't there another? Is it a Native American? I think where the grandchild asks his grandfather or something, how will I know what I'll be like? And he says like there's two. Think of it as like having two wolves inside of yourself, and whichever one you feed more becomes the dominant side of like who you become. Kind of. It's similar, like similarly interesting think that we could, whichever one you think about, you give focus to become more organically? Is it a pre-chosen one that becomes more dominant? Like you said, it seems less selected.
I'll jump in right there and I'll say, I think back when I was talking about precognitive dreams and deja vu, my deja vu is getting stronger and more frequent, right? And what I've realized is the deja vu is happening is because we're dreaming the next day before it happens. You regress it because you don't want to remember.
I so believe.
So basically, we're going into these like states of sleep, or like you say, that sleep's the cousin of death. You could be programming this reality, and that's why you have deja vu. It's because it happened before. It didn't happen before, but you had to think of it for it to play out.
Imagine if that was part of what we wrote into the story concept, that these characters died in their storyline, that each of them did, because that's part of the world they live in. In fact, they could die over and over and over again, and we could describe it as not a super dark thing, which is something we've been talking about, taking away the dark experience from the void and the negative association.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
That would be a fun way to manifest it, where you were saying in a more light, like less negative, dark way.
Well, I've realized through death and letting go, mainly in my dream states, and also with the DMT use, prolonged DMT use, so letting go just frees you completely, and it opens you up to other states, or it gives you access, like Satori says, but it does open you up to and it makes you aware of all these other things that are happening. And as I said, it seems like they're spinning up for me anyway. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. It always seems like I'm exactly where I need to be. A couple of years ago, I'd get it not as frequent, but now it's happening every day, multiple times, and I'll dream something, and the next day it will happen. I'm not lying to you. I dreamt about, the photos that you remixed. I knew you were doing some sort of.
I would never even say that you're not being honest, because
no, I'm being honest.
That's why.
When I woke up the day before you sent it, I was I had it in my mind, but it wasn't it. But as soon as you showed it to me, I was oh, that's what it was that I was trying to remember from my dream. That's exactly what it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and then you wonder if you had the thought first, or if you saw that. If you feel like you saw it first, it's totally like that. I believe there's a lot of information we receive, whether we receive it before or after or during. Feel like everything, the synchronicity of it and the infinity of it. It's I don't know how to explain it really in words, because words are super limiting. They fall short.
Also, you have to remember, everyone says that there's only now, the moment, but they don't know what that implies. It implies you're pulling everything out of existence now and making it real now. All your memories, all your past, and say future, it's all happening now. So none of it really happened. It's like a thought implant. It's like you're tricking yourself.
Yeah.
And making yourself.
Well, are we being programmed, or are we programming?
We're talking from our egos. Don't program.
It's nature. It's nature. Dreameater.
That's more what I meant, the organism of us. What's the program being run?
Yeah, I don't know the guy's name, but he said it's nature,
as a whole,
and he's right.
Yeah.
Because nature means it happens by itself. It's the thing that's happening by itself.
You said that you always just more often find yourself in the right places at the right time, right?
Yeah, constantly.
Just out of curiosity, would some of this be with respect to whatever it is you do professionally?
Oh, do you want me to give you an example? Okay, yeah. I can give you multiple examples.
Please.
The best example was, I had a dream that I was collecting sort of trinkets. I was going around collecting trinkets, or sort of treasures from around the world, right? Oh, sorry, in the dream, I buried the treasures in the ground, right? And the next day, me and my wife went to the backyard, and we had planned to dig up a rosewood, right? And we dug down, half a meter down into the ground, and as I was chucking the dirt up to my wife, Tash, she goes, "Hey, look at this," and she picked it up. It was this little tiki, like a New Zealander tiki. Oh my god, that's from my dream. Not specifically the tiki, but I buried something in the ground and it was there.
And when you have those
memories, if you don't believe me, you can go look at the blog.
When you feel those memories of I remember doing this thing, this very special thing in the middle of You just remember while you're sleeping, and then I can understand you may not have the visual of the tiki, the exact thing, but you remember the feeling of burying this like sacred treasure object, or finding something, right?
Yeah,
like,
I was
like,
literally burying treasures. So anyway, we dug up these 2 tikis, and I couldn't believe it. Like, you could tell that story to people, and they'll just say you're full of shit. They'd say you're full of shit just for finding these tikis. If you can go on my Minds page and look how small they are. People would say you never found that in the ground, but I did find it in the ground. And the night before, I had a dream that I would find it. Oh no, sorry, not that I would find it, but that I buried it in the ground. And there's no other way to explain it than you're in the right place at the right time. And I'll extend it a little bit further. I know my daughter wouldn't have been born if we didn't move from Sydney to Adelaide. We live in Adelaide right now. Now, I couldn't imagine my life without my daughter. See, if I stayed in Sydney, I wouldn't have my daughter. This life just plays out. It's just happening. We're watching an unfolding of events. You know what I mean?
That's kind of what I meant about the story writing itself. Like, for example, the photos that we did is what inspired the concept. So, like, why wouldn't the next series of photos we do kind of inspire the story? And in a way, that's why when multiple people collaborate together, you do tend to have a lot of people having either collaborative dreams too, or
what happens is, I think that you become sort of not one. Well, I believe everyone's one anyway. That's why I find it a little strange talking with people sometimes, because I honestly believe, like, I've seen it. I know people say it, that they say you're the universe. People read a lot of memes and write a lot of quotes, but they don't understand it as a reality.
I think the people that are in the room right now, for example, are all really sensitive. Like,
I'm not saying these guys aren't. I'm talking about people, like, just in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that.
Oh yeah, no, I believe it. I was speaking about people like the general public, say the people that don't know about these things, people that don't talk about dreams. But all I was saying was
no, I was just saying, speaking before, but where I left off, a prime example of how deep our ability to communicate really is if we look outside of the cell.
Few questions. Don't you feel like with the way that we'll communicate, where you'll text me randomly on a day where, like, not even a day, we have a time difference, first of all, and you'll text me at like 3 in the morning or something, and it'll be super pertinent, and you'll be really, really bad numbers. How did you know? And it's just like this unspoken thing, and over lots of years, we've always had like that random connection, like, even physically knowing each other really.
Well, I think the connection's already there. You're just seeing it because you can't not be connected. You can pretend that you're not connected, and that's when you feel disconnected, but you're still connected, and you don't see the patterns. But when you sort of let go and watch the experience play out, you realize that it's just kind of playing out, and that you don't have as much say in it as you thought you did.
So
I think what I meant is that I do feel that connection, and him and I think we've always felt like an unspoken, non-verbal type of attaching to some sort of super grid, like I was describing before. When I sleep.
Well, Maga and I think that's such a part of that we are able to communicate in the way that we do. At least for me, when we spoke, it was a conversation that I just really needed to have with someone that really just fit the social mold that you were in, and someone that I didn't know, but someone that I felt like I could be open with. And because of that, we just made a really, for me at least, it's never left. I've always had this adoration for you.
It was like an 8 hour. Was it 8 hours?
Until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, yeah. I was, coming back, kind of carrying this back around with the conversation. I was in a place where I had to learn to put aside my ego for the sake of I was working as an artist, and I had to learn to put my ego aside for the sake of business and numbers that I was really struggling with. And then my skin color was fading, and people had me wearing makeup all the time, and I just wasn't really sure of who I was.
And I was like, just wanted to let him know that was really cool. That's so not necessary. Like, I'm fascinated by the reality of like what you really have, which he told me was vitiligo. I found out in the process of talking to him that he was dealing with being colorblind to a certain degree, if not completely. And I said to him, color should I dye it for the documentary we want to do where we meet on camera? And he's like, oh, well, I might not even really know what color it is exactly. And I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, we're going to do this in black and white. And now I'm really fascinated. This is a really interesting concept. So that was fun. That was a great talk. That went on for a long time. And that's like that synchronistic meeting someone where you're like, oh, this is really aligns with what I've been thinking about for a long time,
it was the right place at the right time kind of thing, and we just made a very, well, at least for me, we made a very deep connection. It's cool.
That is really
that's the thing about life.
interesting.
you could say that about anything. I could say that about, like, this is what I'm saying. You are exactly where you're meant to be. There's no way for you not to be where you're meant to be. Even if it's the day you die, you're meant to be there. Because there's like small things. If I think about my life from, say, when I was born till now, the smallest thing could have changed, and I wouldn't have a daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you think about it now, I can't imagine it being another way. Do you know why? Because it couldn't be another way. Not to me, at least. Not from my perspective. From my perspective, happens exactly how it's meant to. People want to be in control of their experience, and I think they get upset because it's the ego wanting control, but the ego doesn't have any control. It's the one thing that doesn't have any control, and I think that's why people, get.
That's
a little,
why when you asked me if the ego survived death, I was like, no, I don't really think so. Not unless there's some traumatic event that happens.
I used to think that ego survived death. Now what I think it is that when you die, if you have trouble letting go, you'll have like a bad experience. Because I believe, basically, a lot of people believe it, that it pretty much when you smoke DMT, you're experiencing the same thing that you kind of experience when you die. It is like that because you go back. I can tell you, like, from first-hand experience, you go back and you know that you are, I don't want to say God, that you are it. It's just obvious. It's the most obvious thing.
You can say God
ever.
because for a lot of people that believe, that we're energy and that energy
God,
itself is God itself.
You pull back from it and you just realize that, like, none of it mattered. Well, it mattered as an experience, but the thing is, the strange thing about it is, the minute you get there, your whole ego, everything that you thought you were is just gone. And the thing that you remember that you are is way better than the ego and your body image and everyone that you ever knew. Because they're there too. Because they are part of that. That's the whole thing. And people say, oh, what about when other people die and, like, will they be in heaven or whatever we feel? Well, they will be because they're part of the same thing. But it's just not the pattern that you're going to be seeing it in. Like my daughter and my wife, they are a part of it. But they're manifesting as, like, Tash and Serafina. That doesn't mean I'll see Tash and Serafina in that state, but they're a part of that. That's the whole thing.
They're a
people
part
want
of
to believe.
the infinity that you wrote about.
Yeah, that's right. We all
that.
are. We all are. And it's just, people don't like the idea that the ego doesn't go on. It might go on in another way. I don't know, but when you return to, like, that source, you leave all this behind. Anymore. You just, like, it's like you've been lifting your luggage, like walking for a long journey, and you just, like, finally slump it all down, walk through the door and you're home, and you're like lay on the lounge. That's like one way of saying it, but it's like it's beyond words. It's like a dawning, like the biggest realization ever. And you're talking about deja vu. It's like that times a billion plus the best nostalgic feeling you've ever felt, and everything makes sense. And you don't even know what it is that makes sense.
I think that's why I never wanted to do too many psychedelics, because at least artificial ones did. I never wanted the come down to feel so bad or drastic that I couldn't relate to life anymore, which is what tends to happen with the come down feeling for a lot of people.
People it can get like dissociative. I think the word is very
dissociative, and that's why
I can see in everyone.
What kept me from wanting to kind of like get as an adult, because I did so many as a child. I think psychedelics.
Yeah, I can see in everyone the same thing that I see in the DMT state, and it's hiding in everyone. It's hiding in the floor, in the cupboard, in your phone. Everything in existence is what it is, and that's why people say, like, that's why I wrote that blog, Missy, about when I saw these DMT entities, and the thing I felt, that I see the same thing with my wife and my daughter. I get the same feeling. That's because it's the same thing in a different form. You get the same blissful state, and we can't have that unless we give ourselves the illusion of, like, separating from that whole. And that's why we're starting to see all these synchronicities and all these sort of seem to make sense. It's because it does make sense. It can't not make sense. The very reason that you're here, like, look at your hands, you're just everything. Like, how can it not make sense? Like, how complex it all is?
Yeah.
Just for it to be there, you know what I mean? That's why I don't understand people that don't see it. You know what I mean? And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it makes me anxious. If I'm alone, I'm just like, oh my god, like, I see it. So, like, sort of bring myself back down to reality a little, and I do that by, like, reinforcing that duality feel, which will be talking to someone, And that's why I like when people disagree with me. I love it because
I know what you mean. It's like a form of grounding. Yeah.
I'm more fucked up. I'm more fucked up than you, Dreameater. I see it. Instead of me submitting to it, I just try to take control of the situation and make myself feel like I'm still in control no matter what. And it's something that I struggle with because I know that other people don't see it the way that I do. Because I've spent so much time studying it, it's so easy for me to manipulate a situation to my advantage if that's what I choose to do.
You almost feel slack. It's almost unfair. Yeah, like you can ask people questions and they'll say, what do you want? Or, you know what I mean? Because you realize that you're kind of...
Yeah,
I guess it's a form of... Yeah.
Other people don't hear. My nephew hears, though, or at least he's learning to. But he doesn't have as much of an understanding of the physical associations that come with the psychology of manipulating situations the way that I kind of can, and I learned that from someone else. But
I think most people are, by the way, and kids, so don't take that personally. They learn it young.
They aren't ruled by the ego as much as a typical person is, which is why they tend to be very aggressive. They tend to push aside the things that, in their opinion, don't matter with respect to whatever it is they're trying to accomplish or whatever it is they're trying to get. At least in my experience, I think that, and coming back to children, the way that they communicate is something that I think that all adults can learn from, especially with this, talking about this Dreameater, I am actively going through the process of making sure that, because as children get older, they tend to lose their ability to recognize that stuff, and people and adults do it. The issue is that the ego becomes so inflated that they don't remember that all of this stuff is happening around them, or they don't recognize it, but it still happens, except it's something that's pushed deep down into their subconscious instead of, and in that, they become just like the people that they were able to read so easily and clearly, and they were able to speak for, etc., when they were younger children, because the ego wasn't there. When a kid is hungry, he's like, no, I want a fucking snack. And it's something that is pushed to the forefront of his consciousness. There's nothing there in the subconscious to get in the way of that hunger. And it's just like anything else that they want. But we're adults, right? If we're hungry, an adult may say, oh, well, do I have enough money? Is this working with my budget? Do I have enough food in the fridge? Is there something that fits my particular taste? Oh, do I have to go to work in a bit? Am I going to have to take a dump while I'm in the middle of my shift? And there are all of these things that push that desire deep down into the subconscious instead of out front, in front of you where it should be. And I think that people like Dreameater, talking about being in the right place at the right time, and Missy, the same thing. I think that people like us, and other people in particular, have a conscious understanding of the fact that that's how other people work. And the tough part is once you are awakened to that, the fact that the subconscious rules everyone, and it is loud and in your face at all times, all day, every day. The hard part is trying not to let yourself revert back to that way of thinking. It's like, no, I don't want this stuff to be my subconscious. I want to be conscious at all times as much as possible. I don't want to be ruled by that subconscious. At the very least, I think that is what makes the best of us the best of us. It's what makes those people that everyone flocks to and gathers around, and leaders and things like that. I think that those people are prime examples of people that have all of their true desires at the front of their consciousness instead of pushed down into their subconscious. It's something that rules their entire sense of being, and it bleeds off. People pick up on it because we're animals. They emote something that we can relate to, and it's so loud that we just want to gather around them.
That's why children flock to people with the most resounding vibrational energy. It's like when when you play beautiful music and butterflies hover over your vehicle, and you're like, "What the hell? Can you hear that?" Or Fred said once he was playing guitar, and I think he had an eagle come and almost swoop down, just he didn't see it because he wasn't facing it, but his wife I think saw it from behind, and it almost came down right onto him and just stopped, swooped down, hovered, and while he was playing the guitar outside in the open, and I really feel like that vibrational frequencies attract these animals and like children.
They do. What were you saying, Dream? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you were saying how you got the people that understand and the people that don't understand. I was just going to point out the important fact that you need to have the people that don't understand to have the people that do understand. See how they both sing each other into existence? Everything's got a contrast. It's like you and me. Without me, there can't be you. You know what I mean? So like, for us to be like sort of whatever you want to call it, like privy to the fact that this stuff's going on, there has to be the people that don't know. Otherwise, we wouldn't know.
But how do you describe? Hold on, but how do you describe knowing? Everyone has a different way to describe that feeling of knowing, and like for some, it's a feeling of rebirth or ascension or dying, even like and being reborn. It's different for everyone, and I think a lot of people have the same experiences, but describe them in different ways. And so, how is there a way to judge then whether or not they, I guess, are experienced, as Jimi Hendrix put it? Like, are you experienced? Like, how do you judge that? You know what I mean? Like for example, how do you judge third eye awareness, right? So how would you know? How do you scientifically measure third eye awareness?
This kind of leads to us wrapping up things, and kind of what I wanted to say to kind of bring everything hopefully back around, or at least in my own head of formulating it. Earlier, Dreameater was saying something about God, and he's kind of like, I don't want to necessarily use that word. I don't particularly like to use that word either, because it's a loaded word that has all these things that are attached throughout the myth of it, and it's really kind of going back to what I was saying about some people say that the truth will set you free, but the truth entraps me. That word kind of, in a lot of senses, entraps us collectively as humanity, because it implies that the source, the void, or whatever, has a personality. And to me, from my different experiences, especially in the dreams, it's all teaching you to dissolve different personalities, dissolve the egos, all these different masks that we use. It's us shedding, going back to that scorpion archetype of shedding our different skins, our different personalities, our different masses to get closer to the luminous dark. And what I see with the luminous dark is that we're capturing synchronicities and cosmic giggles and the source and beauty, and we're capturing it because it's all around us, and there's moments where it leaks out, where it just shines for us. And these are these synchronicities and the cosmic giggles that happens with the creativity and the intelligence that's in between us, the stuff that goes without saying. And as we capture those, I think we weave them into this mosaic of stories. And this is kind of like what we do through our waking life, right? It's only like after the fact that we formulate it into words and we make it into stories, and we tell people, and this happened to me and that happened to me, and because of this happened and because of this or whatever, and we make all these connections. But to get back to being experienced, the dream is not real, but the dreaming is. It's more so than, for me at least, than the creation. It's the creating, the act of being in the experience is where I feel that tingling. You were saying when you listen to beautiful music, it's like your hair stand up, but it's like this tingling. And this tingling happens all sorts of different ways, like when you're in love, when you hear beautiful music, or when you connect to a movie and you don't know why, like you're gonna go like about to cry, but you have like this weird tingling. It's like every cell in your body is vibrating with vitality. And this is different things, all in different forms. It comes in different forms, but it's all this feeling. So how do you judge? You can't really judge anybody's experience. I think everybody is experienced whether they realize it or not. But what it is to hopefully help spark them to get back to experiencing, instead of living in that world where constantly having that noise that blocks out the beauty or the luminous dark. And so that's at least what drives me to continually try to play with this concept, continually do what I'm doing. And so this is why I like when we get into something that is not framed. Like community hangouts are not necessarily framed in like, we're talking about this subject or talking about that subject. I mean, we always come back to like the same point almost all the time, whether we plan out a show or we don't plan out a show. We always come back to like this point of trying to capture that beauty in a bottle or in a word or in a story. And so yeah, that's basically what I wanted to communicate to wrap up things. And anybody else want to give out their final words or expressions of what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think that the first step to, we were talking about this with Dreameater, to trying to help define it for a person is to understand that the way that we label whatever it is we perceive is going to be different to other people. Some people define it as God, some people define it as consciousness, some people define it as fate, others can define it as something, you know, in the realm of physics. They're get to the core of that same truth, which I don't think anyone truly knows. And once you give that person that blank slate, you just provide them with the facts and the way that things are, and you are able to prove to them things aren't coincidences. These things actually do happen for a reason. From there, you allow them the freedom and the opportunity to define it themselves. I think one of the best groups of people at doing this that are more often than not, they're good at what they do, at recognizing this and defining it in a way that is easily translatable. Our hackers are very gifted at recognizing those patterns and the fact that these things don't happen coincidentally and for no reason. These things happen because they're supposed to happen. It's where you're supposed to be when what is in your subconscious is being pushed to the forefront of everything that you're thinking. And I wish that other people, that we could communicate with one another on that type of level at all times, all day, every day, because it's a beautiful thing.
I think that's the art of living, like I was saying, and I love that Satori used the word concert of sorts, and I think that's the common thread that we're trying to weave to. Thanks for being on, you guys.
Yep, no worries.
Right on, guys. I'll talk to you later.